Hey you guys, it's Trey Vittetoe, and today I want to talk about synth basses and how to bring life and energy to those tracks. So have you ever tracked a synth bass on your production and you're listening back to it, you're thinking, there's just no life, there's no excitement to this bass, and you find yourself trying different plugins and different ways to try to make it exciting. So today I want to show a few techniques that I use to really bring some life and some humanness to my synth basses to help them really stand out in a mix. So there's some pretty big differences between a real bass and a synth bass, and I want to talk a little bit about those first so we understand kind of what we're up against. All right, so a couple things I did there. Now, I'm not a bass player really, I'm a guitarist. So a couple things that you saw were a lot of slides. I do a lot of bends and slides. Not so much bends, but I do a lot of slides. So every time I slide, that's something a synth bass doesn't do so well. Another thing that's happening here is every time I strike a note, it may not be immediately apparent, but there's a pitch fluctuation. So you tune your instrument, you tune it up nice and clean, and the first thing you do is you strike it hard with either your finger or your pick, and you literally pull it out of tune for a split second. And there's even some variation on that pitch after it levels out a little bit, because there's this vibrating nature of the wave with the string. So, two elements that are tough to recreate when you're just playing a synth bass on a keyboard, or slides and that pitch variation. Every time I strike the string, there's going to be a different attack, and that attack means that my pitch variation is going to be different every time I hit the note. So that brings in the whole human element that, again, is hard to replicate fully on a synth bass. So when I consider all of these things, and I think, well, you know what, I may not play this perfectly, but you know, there's a certain energy and a certain character that's hard to beat. So how do I bring some of that feel and some of that energy into my synth bass? All right, so now let's consider a basic synth bass. The bass I have up comes from my Korg M3, and I like it a lot, but it's kind of boring if you just listen to it, its basic tone. So anyway, it sounds pretty boring by itself. And yet I find myself using this bass a lot because it sits beautifully in my mixes. So what do I do to make this bass a little more exciting? Let me show you what I did in this song. Okay, so the example today I'm going to use is from a song called Alive Again. The artist is Vinzeel. She came in the end of last year, recorded about 4 songs, and I really like this song. I'm just going to play a portion of the instrumental since that's what we're focused on today. Okay, pretty basic bass there. But then in the chorus, okay. All right, so the bass in the chorus is what I want to focus on. I'll play that for you soloed. Okay, so you see that's got some very different energy on it. It's got some bends, some stop starts. So let me show you how I took that sort of basic synth sound that I played earlier and turned it into that. So I'll play the part down so you can hear it in its basic form. Okay, cool. All right, so once I laid the basic part, pretty boring. I came in and I did some pitch bends. All these pitch bends are simple octaves. All right, so now we're looking at the part after I put my pitch bends in that I was satisfied with. All of those pitch bends are an octave, so they're not like a real bass player would play them. They are much more exaggerated, but they give the whole thing a lot of life and energy. So once I got the MIDI part down with the pitch bends, I tracked my audio down so I could start really fine-tuning what I wanted to do with the final bass part. Okay, so here's the audio. I laid this audio, but then I started chopping some pieces out where I thought it needed to breathe a little bit. All right, cool, and it sort of sits like this now at this point. Okay, so that bass and that kick are conflicting with each other frequency-wise. So I want to sidechain out the kick, and to do that, I used a plugin. It's sort of a sidechain emulator, I guess. It's the Nicky Romero Kickstart. Super simple plug-in. In this case, I'm running a huge cut. I'm almost cutting 100% of the bass at each downbeat. So check it out. Really helps the bass and kick sit right. Definitely helps that kick sit nicely. The next thing I wanted to do was bring some sort of sparkle to the mids in this bass, something that sort of helped it stand out, cut through a little bit more. This is a plugin that's native to Cubase called Quadra Fuzz. It's a multi-band distortion. And what I did was, in this particular band, right around 200 Hertz to 2K, I ramped up a little distortion. If you listen to it soloed, it sounds like this. Now, why am I using a multi-band distortion? If you've ever run a distortion, just a regular distortion on a bass, it can sound cool, but it can also suck the life out of the subs, really flatten them out, lose some of the depth and warmth. So I don't want to do that. If you listen to my subs, they're untouched down here. That's as I track the bass. So this distortion is only working within those bands. So it keeps a lot of that low-end body, but it gives the bass a little sparkle in the mid-range that I'm looking for. This technique basically is not unlike using an EQ. If you're looking for a cut-through point, a lot of times you'll go for those mids or high mids where you're trying to sort of get a sound to step out just a little bit in your mix. But instead of EQing it, I'm adding some distortion, some harmonics up there in that frequency range. I really like to use it on basses. So here's the bass with the Quadra Fuzz and the kickstart. All right, the last thing that I wanted to do was I just wanted to give it a little bit more presence in the sub. So I brought in this plugin, this Waves plugin called Renaissance Bass. And I'm not doing a lot, but right around 66 Hertz here. It's pretty subtle. I'll crank it just a little bit so you can hear. So it's just helping it just give it a little warmth. So again, one more time. Okay, so one more time with the vocal in so you can see how everything sits together. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Thanks so much, and until next time.